Number 10. Hide and seek, reinforcing fear of abandonment. You remember it, don't you? The giggles, the counting, the thrill of hiding under a bed or behind a curtain while someone yelled, "Ready or not, here I come." But beneath the laughter, something quiet was being planted, a seed of fear. Hide and seek wasn't just about play, it was a rehearsal for loss. As a child, every second in hiding felt endless. You waited for footsteps, breath held tight, wondering if you'd ever be found. And when the seeker passed you by, your heart raced. Half joy, half terror. Because what if they never came back? What if you disappeared and no one cared to look? That feeling, small, invisible, forgotten, was your first brush with abandonment. You didn't have words for it then, but your nervous system did. The rush of adrenaline, the shallow breaths, the desperate wish to be seen again. These became emotional blueprints. Years later, that same blueprint activates when texts go unanswered, when a friend grows distant, when love feels uncertain. You call it anxiety, but it's the same old game, still running its script. Hide and seek taught us two conflicting lessons: that disappearing keeps us safe, and that being unseen hurts like hell. It created a paradox, yearning for connection, but fearing exposure. The child who learned to hide too well often grows into the adult who hides emotionally, behind sarcasm, behind silence, behind "I'm fine." And the seeker? They learned control, the power of deciding when someone is found. The thrill of discovery becomes, in adulthood, the chase for validation, the need to find others before they find you. It seemed so innocent, but every round of hiding was a rehearsal for relationships, testing how long love would take to find you. And even now, when someone walks away, that same child whispers inside you, will they come back? Number 9. Musical chairs creating scarcity mindset. Remember the circle of chairs, the music, the laughter that turned sharp when the sound stopped? Musical chairs looked harmless, just a fun scramble, but that game planted one of the deepest psychological seeds we carry into adulthood, the belief that there's never enough. Every round began with promise. Everyone danced, everyone smiled. But the moment the music cut off, joy turned to panic. One chair was gone, one player out. You learned, long before you understood economics or competition, that safety could vanish without warning, and someone else's win meant your loss. The game didn't reward cooperation, only speed, strategy, and subtle sabotage. That's the first time your nervous system experienced scarcity. The rule was simple: if you hesitate, you're left standing. And years later, that rule still whispers in your head when you rush to grab opportunities before someone else does, when you chase relationships before they drift away, when enough never feels like enough. Musical chairs trained us to associate silence with danger. The instant the music stopped, hearts raced. Even today, that same pattern runs quietly beneath your adult anxiety. The panic when things go calm. The fear that peace means something's about to be taken away. You learn to equate movement with survival, stillness with loss. And the cruelest part? The game promised fairness while ensuring exclusion. Every round demanded a sacrifice. Someone had to go. And as children, we learned to laugh when others lost, just to mask our own relief that it wasn't us. This was the birth of comparative happiness, feeling safe only when someone else isn't. So when you see adults fighting for promotions, rushing for attention, hoarding wealth, or fearing scarcity even in abundance, remember, it started with a song. The moment the music stopped, the child inside learned: sit fast or disappear. Number 8. Monopoly teaching greed and domination. It started with a roll of dice, the clatter on cardboard, the gleam of fake money. Monopoly, the family game night classic. But beneath the colorful properties and smiling mascots, something darker was at work. This wasn't a game about play, it was training. A quiet simulation of power, greed, and the sweet intoxication of control. In Monopoly, kindness costs you. Every good deed, every favor, every trade that isn't ruthless is punished. The rules reward only one mindset: dominate or be dominated. You win by bankrupting your friends, by watching their faces fall as you demand rent they can't pay. That tiny twinge of pleasure, that's the beginning of something the world later calls ambition. But it's not just money, it's psychology. Monopoly teaches that life is a battlefield disguised as a board, that other people's struggles are steps on your ladder. Every property you buy, every hotel you build, becomes proof that you exist. The more you own, the more you matter. And that belief doesn't fade when the game ends. It grows up with you. It becomes the adult who measures worth in possessions, who equates dominance with safety. What's more terrifying is how Monopoly rewards cruelty wrapped in logic. It's just the rules, we say, as we strip others of everything. It's a mask adults wear too, calling exploitation business and emotional manipulation strategy. It conditions us to detach, to see empathy as weakness, generosity as risk. And when the game is over, and everyone's broke except one, there's an eerie silence. That's not victory, it's isolation. Because the winner, sitting behind their empire of paper money, always ends up alone. And the lesson, whispered beneath the laughter, remains the same. To win in this world, someone else must lose. But maybe the greater tragedy is this. Monopoly wasn't meant to glorify greed. Its creator designed it as a warning. Yet we took the warning and made it entertainment. We turned greed into tradition, and then we called it fun. Number 7. Simon Says programming blind obedience. Simon Says touch your nose. Simon Says jump. Now spin around. And when you did, without hearing Simon Says, you were out. The laughter of your friends echoed as you stood frozen, realizing your mistake. You followed without permission. A harmless game? Or the earliest coding of obedience? Simon Says doesn't teach listening, it teaches compliance. It rewards surrendering thought and punishes independence. You learn not to act unless commanded, not to question who Simon is or why he leads. You simply obey. The fun hides a ritual, conditioning children to seek authority before action, to doubt their instincts, to fear the cost of thinking freely. As adults, we call it following orders, fitting in, respecting the system. But at its root, it's the same reflex, waiting for the invisible Simon in your mind to give permission before you speak, love, risk, or change. The voice that says, don't move until someone else approves. The authority that lives inside you long after childhood ends. In that circle of kids, there was power in being Simon. The thrill of control, to make others move or freeze with a single word. And for those obeying, it was survival through accuracy. One slip meant exclusion. It wasn't about play, it was about belonging through obedience. Every child learned that safety came from following, not from daring. The damage shows later. You hesitate before expressing a truth. You need rules to feel safe. You fear being wrong more than being silent. You look for leaders to tell you what's allowed. That's Simon, still whispering. The game ends, but the pattern doesn't. The adults who never outgrow it become soldiers of conformity, programmed to follow trends, obey systems, and distrust their own will. And yet deep down, every player remembers the one unspoken rule Simon never mentioned. If you stop listening, the game loses all its power. Number 6. Tag shaping fear of being it or excluded. Tag, you're it. 2 words that could turn a playground into a battlefield. One moment you were laughing, free, running wild. The next, you were the outsider, the hunted. Everyone scattered, and suddenly, every friend became an escape artist. It wasn't just a chase, it was an early lesson in social isolation. The child who's it doesn't just run. They carry invisible shame. They're marked, avoided. The goal of everyone else is simple: don't be them. That single rule shaped an entire emotional code. Fear of standing out, fear of being singled out, fear of being the one everyone runs from. The playground became your first stage of social psychology, where you learned the cost of being visible. The thrill of the chase hides something darker: rejection. Every laugh in the distance, every dodge, every turned back told you that belonging is fragile, that people scatter when you become the center of attention for the wrong reason. That lesson echoes into adulthood. You learn to move carefully in conversations, to avoid confrontation, to blend in, because deep down, you remember what it felt like when everyone ran from you, not with you. Tag trains the subconscious to equate vulnerability with punishment. To be it means exposure, isolation, ridicule. So adults grow up running from responsibility, from emotions, from confrontation, because the child inside still fears the sound of laughter fading away. Even success can trigger that same anxiety. Standing out means being chased again. But the cruel paradox of tag is that no one ever wins. The cycle continues. Runners become seekers, the hunted becomes the hunter. Everyone's both chasing and fleeing something, never realizing the game has no finish line. Maybe that's the truest metaphor for adulthood. We keep running from the feeling of being it, not realizing that the only way to stop the chase is to stop running and tag ourselves. Number 5. Hot potato teaching avoidance of responsibility. A circle of children, a song, a blur of hands passing something that must never stop moving. The rule was simple: don't be caught holding it when the music ends. That object, the hot potato, wasn't dangerous, but your body treated it as if it burned. The game taught your hands to move fast, your instincts to deflect, and your mind to believe one powerful lie: holding responsibility is painful. Hot potato is a training ground for emotional avoidance. You learn early that the safest way to survive is to pass it on. When something feels heavy, uncomfortable, or uncertain, move it away from you. Don't hold it, don't own it, just keep it spinning. As adults, that same reflex governs our relationships, work, and even self-awareness. We dodge blame. We deflect hard truths. We pass guilt, shame, and obligation to others because deep down, still echoing inside us, is the terror of being left holding the potato when the music stops. The moment of silence, that frozen second after the song ends, is the heart of the trauma. Everyone looks at you. You're exposed. Laughter turns into judgment. That microsecond taught you to associate stillness with punishment. It's why silence in conversation feels awkward, why you rush to fill empty space with words, why you panic when life slows down. Stillness feels like danger because the child in you remembers. Stillness means you're caught. And it's not just about fear, it's about guilt. The game made us believe that holding something too long makes it our fault. So, we learn to release emotions before they burn. Grief, love, accountability. We call it maturity, but sometimes it's just avoidance dressed up as calm. Hot potato doesn't end in childhood. It evolves. It becomes the office blame game, the relationship blame shift, the endless passing of discomfort so no one has to feel the burn. But here's the truth that no one told us. The music was never the danger. The lesson was, because sometimes the bravest act isn't passing the weight away, it's holding it long enough to let it cool. Number 4. King of the Hill. Normalizing competition over cooperation. A dirt mound. A group of kids. One goal, reach the top and push everyone else down. King of the Hill looked like harmless roughhousing, but beneath its dust and laughter hid the blueprint for how we learn dominance, hierarchy, and the loneliness of power. It was never about play, it was about control. At its core, the game teaches one message. There can only be one winner. Every friend becomes an obstacle, every smile hides strategy. You learn that survival isn't about standing together, it's about standing above. And even when you reach the top, it's temporary. You stand tall for a moment, triumphant, until someone stronger, or simply more desperate, pulls you down. Childhood applause hides an adult truth. Competition doesn't build connection, it builds walls. That mound becomes the metaphor for life. The office, the internet, the social ladder, all versions of the same hill. You climb to prove your worth, to be seen, to feel significant. But no one tells you what happens when you get there. The top is small, narrow, and cold. The higher you rise, the fewer people stand beside you. And yet, you defend your position, mistaking isolation for achievement. Because that's what the game trained you to do. Confuse domination with validation. The most haunting part is how we carry that programming into relationships. We compete for love, for attention, for emotional territory. We turn partnership into a scorecard. We can't just be, we must win. And when someone challenges us, we feel that same childhood panic. The fear of being pushed off the hill, of losing our place, of becoming invisible again. King of the Hill rewards aggression and calls it strength. But the truth is, the strongest child wasn't the one who stayed on top. It was the one who reached down to pull someone else up. Somewhere, we stopped playing that version. Somewhere, connection became weakness. And yet, if you close your eyes, you can still feel the dirt on your hands, the laughter turning sharp, the echo of that childhood chant in your adult mind. Stay on top, don't fall, don't share the hill. Number 3. Duck-duck-goose reinforcing peer judgment. A ring of children, laughter circling like a current. One child walks around tapping heads, duck, 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 until suddenly, goose, and then chaos. The chosen one leaps up, runs, chased by laughter and adrenaline. Simple, right? But buried inside this innocent ritual is a delicate kind of conditioning, the quiet birth of peer judgment. Because Duck-duck-goose wasn't just about speed or reflexes, it was about selection, about being chosen, or worse, not chosen. Every tap on the head carried a message: accepted, ignored, avoided, desired. The children sitting in the circle learned wordlessly to read the rhythm of approval. Who gets picked often? Who gets skipped? Who never hears their name? That was your first experience of social ranking. The goose moment carried two opposite emotions: excitement and anxiety. You wanted to be chosen because it meant you were seen, but you also feared it because being chosen meant exposure, performance, and the risk of failing in front of everyone. That paradox still lives in adult life, the craving to be noticed, mixed with the terror of attention. The same surge of nerves hits when you're called to speak in a meeting, or when someone points you out in a crowd. The child inside still whispers, "Don't mess up." They're watching. And what about the chooser? The one who held the power to tap heads? That's the seed of social control. The pleasure of deciding who gets attention and who stays invisible. A soft rehearsal for future gatekeepers. Bosses, influencers, social circles deciding who's in and who's not. The game made judgment feel playful, acceptable, even normal. But the saddest echo of Duck-duck-goose is how we carried its rhythm into adulthood. We scroll through faces online. Duck, 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 skip, ignore, scroll, until someone catches our eye. Goose. We call it dating, hiring, networking. It's the same circle still spinning, just with better lighting and fancier clothes. And maybe that's the quiet tragedy of growing up. We never left the circle. We just changed the chairs. Number 2. Truth or dare fueling peer pressure habits. A circle of friends, a bottle spinning in the middle, nervous laughter. Someone whispers, truth or dare. It sounds innocent, an invitation to honesty or bravery. But beneath the thrill lies one of the most dangerous psychological lessons of childhood, the idea that authenticity must entertain others to be accepted. Truth or dare teaches you that truth isn't sacred, it's a transaction. You reveal it to earn approval, to avoid punishment, to stay part of the group. The more shocking the confession, the louder the laughter. The safer the answer, the colder the silence. You learned, without realizing it, that your inner world had an audience, and silence could cost you belonging. And if you choose dare, you're rewarded for compliance, for doing what scares you, not because it's brave, but because it pleases others. You push your comfort zone not for growth, but for validation. You perform embarrassment, humiliation, discomfort, all for the illusion of connection. That's how emotional boundaries begin to blur. The game tells you that respect is earned by exposure, that love is conditional on entertainment. Years later, the pattern continues. We still play, though the bottle's gone. On social media, in relationships, at work, truth becomes performance and daring becomes brand. We confess online for likes. We take emotional dares to prove courage. We trade vulnerability for applause. The game evolved, but the rules stayed the same. Truth or dare also teaches manipulation in disguise. Watch how it rewards pressure, how the crowd pushes, teases, demands, "Come on, don't be boring." That's your first training in peer pressure, the quiet collapse of boundaries under the weight of laughter. And even as adults, that echo remains. We say yes when we want to say no, smile when we're breaking inside, confess when we'd rather stay silent, just to avoid being the one who spoiled the fun. It's strange, isn't it? The game we thought was about courage was really about surrender. It made truth something to risk, not something to honor, and dare something to endure, not something to choose. In the end, truth or dare left us with a split self, the one that wants to be real and the one that wants to be liked. And the saddest part? Most adults never stop spinning that bottle. Number 1. Red light, green light shaping stop-start anxiety. Green light, you run. Red light, you freeze. A simple game, right? But think deeper. This was your first rehearsal for conditional freedom, for learning that progress is never safe for long. That movement must always answer to someone else's command. Every child knows the pulse of that moment, the jolt of stopping mid-stride, muscles tense, heart pounding, breath locked in your chest. The fear wasn't of losing, it was of being caught moving when you weren't supposed to. That sensation, tiny and thrilling then, grows into something darker later. The anxious rhythm of adult life. Accelerate, freeze, obey. Red light, green light is obedience layered over hesitation. It trains your nervous system to flinch at uncertainty, to wait for permission before acting. You learned that action could turn against you at any instant, that momentum is dangerous, that stillness equals safety. So you grow up second-guessing every decision, career moves, confessions, risks, because your body still fears that invisible red light. The game conditions a stop-start anxiety loop. You rush when told go, then panic when progress feels unsupervised. You crave motion, but only if it's approved. That's why you start projects with fire and abandon them in silence. Why you chase dreams, then halt before impact. You're not lazy, you're trained. The child who froze on command became the adult who freezes under pressure. And there's another layer, the watcher, the one who calls the lights. That role taught some kids the power of control, to dictate others' movement, to punish spontaneity. It's a subtle introduction to authority, to the illusion that life's rhythm belongs to whoever shouts loudest. But here's the hidden truth the game never mentioned. In real life, the lights are imaginary. No one holds the whistle. The color changes only when you decide it does. Yet most adults still stand there, frozen mid-stride, waiting for someone to say green. Perhaps the real game begins when you learn to move even when no one says go.